And here with us now to discuss whether California Governor Gavin Newsom and Vice President Kamala Harris are the most legitimate potential replacements for President Biden, should it come to that, is Joe Garofoli, senior political writer for the San Francisco Chronicle. It is good to see you. I appreciate you being here. And let's start with what we're seeing. President Biden, just in the last hour, talking about, a lot of things in his campaign rally in Wisconsin. What will it take to energize voters in key swing states like Wisconsin, where he is essentially neck and neck with Trump right now?
Well, that's the big challenge the president has right now, and he's certainly facing it with younger voters, people of color, and that's his biggest challenge right now. And they see him as, even before what happened last week, as an 81-year-old white guy. How do I connect with this person? And the debate only made it worse. If he were to step down, he'd be replaced by a 60-year-old person, Kamala Harris, the vice president, and that's who his most likely replacement would probably be.
I want to talk more about Kamala Harris, because in your latest piece in the San Francisco Chronicle, you actually write this: the difference for Harris over Biden, she performs better among independent voters and women, and she also is closer to Trump in the polls than three Democrats frequently mentioned. Do you think Democrats will rally behind Kamala Harris at the convention if Biden were to resign?
Absolutely. And there really is no choice. If you have one of these other candidates, whether it be Newsom or Governor Whitmer of Michigan, jumping over the first Black woman, first Southeast Asian woman to be elected vice president, that would alienate the most loyal voters in the Democratic Party, Black women. They vote 90% for Democrats in the presidential races. And so it's going to be Vice President Harris if
what are the issues
president
that
were to step down.
Let me ask you, what are the issues you do see with the other two names we hear frequently mentioned, Governor Gavin Newsom and Governor Gretchen Whitmer? What are the issues that they are presenting that make them not the obvious, heir apparent, other than the fact that Kamala is the VP?
Well, one of the challenges that Newsom has, and both of these two do, but I'll speak to Newsom since I follow him every day, is that, number one, he's unknown to most of the rest of the country. This recent poll shows roughly half of the respondents didn't know who he was, and even 2/3 for Whitmer. So you have to build up their name recognition very quickly. The vice president would also have access to virtually the same campaign war chest that the president does. Newsom and Whitmer would have to ramp up fundraising networks and connect. Newsom could do that if this were a regular campaign, but this was going to be an absolute sprint. The other thing about Newsom to remember is that he's never had to deal with Republicans. He was the mayor of San Francisco. Not a lot of Republicans here. There's a lieutenant governor of California, and then governor of California, where there's a supermajority of Democrats in the legislature. And hasn't been a Republican elected statewide in California since 2006. So, how is it going to relate to swing voters? How is it going to relate to independent voters? These are unknowns. It may be great, but it's an unknown.
I appreciate all of that context, and San Francisco is my hometown, so it's nice to hear that perspective. Let me ask you: is time running out? I mean, how many more days, more weeks, realistically, can the Biden camp take a step back, read the tea leaves, see if they can regain the confidence of the party? When will they need to make a decisive choice?
Well, we'll see what happens with this interview tonight with Stephanopoulos on ABC, and the president also has a news conference scheduled next week. He rarely does those. Those are going to be two tests, but it shouldn't go on much longer than that. We did a story in SF Chronicle the other day, sfchronicle.com, that talks about Nancy Pelosi. And when Pelosi rarely comes out and challenges a fellow Democrat, but the other day she says that it's essential that Biden do these in multiple interviews to prove himself, essentially. And when Pelosi says essential, that means existential. And that's what the president's facing right now.
Thanks so much for watching. Just go to joinnn.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.